Zcash skyrocketed 1,775% in 2 months, while Bitcoin fell asleep at the wheel. Now, an economist says that XRP could be next, and I didn't believe it until I dug deeper. So what I found on this journey actually shook up my crypto game completely, and you're going to be coming along for the ride. Now, I'm going to be honest here. When I first saw the headline about XRP following Zcash's rally, I thought I was dreaming, or maybe just hallucinating on pure hopium. And an altcoin, or at least an altcoin tripling or more from where it is today, it sounded just too good to be true, right? But something about this claim actually gnawed at me, right? If there's even a chance that XRP could pull off what Zcash just did, then I had to investigate further. So I grabbed my metaphorical detective hat and I went on a bit of a mission. So by the end of this video, you're going to know if that $10 XRP narrative is pure fantasy or even just a real possibility now, and how this discovery has quietly changed my own investing strategy. So stick around here because what I uncovered might just change how you see this entire crypto market. Okay, let's rewind just a bit here. It's late. I'm scrolling through crypto news and I see Zcash, a privacy coin that I haven't really thought about in ages, absolutely dominating the market. Now, the beginning was around $40 in September, and Zcash, it shot up to around $750 by early November. That was an 18x increase, right? From a $600 million market cap to over $10 billion. And get this, Zcash pulled that off, or that 18-fold rally off, while Bitcoin was actually dropping from $126,000 to under $100,000. Talk about an underdog story, right? It was like David thrashing Goliath in real time. A smaller coin decoupling from Bitcoin's gravity and sprinting ahead on its own narrative. Now I remember shaking my head thinking, how on earth did I miss that run? So when I stumbled on an analyst boldly predicting that XRP could be next to follow that blueprint, you can imagine my skepticism, right? I've been around the block with XRP, right? I've seen huge promises before, but I also know that XRP has a bit of a habit of surprising us when we least expect it. Now, could this be one of those times? Could XRP really replicate even a fraction of Zcash's epic run? Enter the Economist known as Mikybull. Now, this macro analyst publicly claimed that XRP is among the cryptos likely to mirror Zcash's explosive performance. In fact, he mapped out a conservative short-term target between $8 and $10 for XRP. Conservative. So, when I first read that, I had to double check. I wasn't just seeing things. XRP at $10 would be roughly a 4x from where we are at the point of this recording, around $2.50 or something like that. So even hitting the low end of Mikybull's range, $8, would mean about 215% gain from that kind of $2.50-ish baseline. Now, those kinds of returns in a short time frame are the stuff of crypto dreams and maybe nightmares and what they're potentially made of. Now, was this analyst just blowing some hot air, or did he see something real that others maybe missed? Honestly, part of me was rolling my eyes. XRP isn't exactly a new shiny coin, right? It's a top altcoin that's been around for many years. It's already it's had a pretty big run from around 50 cents to $3 plus between late 2024 and January of 2025. A whopping 568% rally. Now, after a move like that, isn't the juice already kind of squeezed? Well, a voice in my head says maybe the cautious part of me anyway whispered, don't get too greedy. Maybe that was it, right? Now, indeed, some analysts are in that particular camp. A well-known Bitcoin chartist who goes by the name of Master flat out declared that XRP's bull run is over. But of course, you can't trust a Bitcoin maxi, just in my opinion anyway. Now, this guy argues that other coins have a better shot at a Zcash-style comeback, and that XRP has likely peaked for now. Now, he points out to 7 major news headlines in recent weeks that failed to push XRP higher. Think about it, right? Despite all of the buzz, institutional adoption, legal victories, even rumors of an ETF, XRP's price kind of just shrugged. Now, over the past year, it climbed from around 49 cents to $3.66, which is impressive. But after that, it's been kind of range bound to at least to the naysayers. The lack of reaction to big news is a sign that the market has moved on. They're basically saying XRP had its party and the lights have now come on. Harsh, right? Bit but could it be true? Yet, here is where the plot really does thicken, isn't it? Because despite what someone who wants to call themselves master and is a Bitcoin maxi says, there is other people out there. Now, Mikybull isn't alone in this optimism, because his sentiment actually lines up with the broader, quiet confidence that we've noticed among XRP watchers, right? Now, despite the volatility, many believe that XRP has actually been building strength under the radar, and anyone who's into technical analysis can see for themselves that there's a lot of strength in the charts for XRP, right? So it's almost like XRP has been training in a bit of a montage sequence while nobody was even looking, right? To come back swinging at the end of the movie. Now, Mikybull even noted that XRP has maintained a long-term bullish market structure on the higher timeframes. Again, this is exactly what I see inside the charts. And it continues to gain this institutional recognition too. Now, that part really did catch my attention, right? Because if big players, banks, payment providers, even hedge funds are eyeing XRP for its real utility, cross-border payments, liquidity, you name it, then XRP might actually have a fundamentally strong backbone that could justify a rather significant leap. I mean, remember, Zcash's mega rally was just fueled by narrative, right? Privacy focus became hot. That's why Midnight's going to do rather well, in my opinion. But XRP's narrative could actually just be about the payments and the utility, and if that does catch on, well, fire. Who really knows how far it can go? Now, Mikybull didn't just throw out some numbers. He actually backed up his claim with charts and data, as you should. You can't just say a bunch of words and say, trust me, bro. That's not how the real world works. Now, he shared a chart highlighting XRP's price pattern and its explosive potential if history rhymes. Now, looking at the chart, you can quite clearly see why he is excited. In previous cycles, XRP's price often coiled up like a spring, right? Coiling up ready for a big run. Periods of quiet consolidation, and then bang, right? A huge breakout in a kind of compressed time frame. Now, the chart showed how late 2024 to early 2025, XRP had skyrocketed over 500% in just 2 months. Now, the current setup looks eerily similar. A long consolidation that's starting to tilt upwards. Mikybull's chart basically screams the pressure is building under the lid. And one particular pattern on the chart resembles a volcano ready to erupt. And you had this kind of descending resistance line that XRP finally broke. Historically, a precursor to a rather big move. Now, if you're a visual person, it's like seeing storm clouds gathering, right? You just don't know exactly when the downpour will start, but you can feel something big is coming. Now, Mikybull's take is that $8 to $10 is actually a rather modest target, and I do incline to agree to a point. It's a stepping stone to much bigger targets, because if XRP even mirrors a fraction of Zcash's crazy 1,775% breakout, well, those targets could be blown out of the water. Now, that is a bold claim, there's no doubt about it, but seeing the data laid out, it kind of felt a jolt of excitement. Could this be the perfect storm setting up for XRP? Now, this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, we needed to get that disclaimer out of the way, because with all of this big talk and massive rallies, or at least about massive rallies, it's actually critical to stay grounded. Now, let's get back to the story. Right, here I am, weighing two sides. You've got a lot of people, experts included, basically saying XRP's fuel tank is full and it is about to launch. While you've got some other maxis saying that, Bitcoin tank is, or the Bitcoin's really the only asset that they really care about, and that, the XRP tank is empty, right? These are, different kind of points of view. Now, how do you reconcile all of that, right? Well, if you've been in crypto for a bit, you'll know this feeling, right? It's that tug of war between the FOMO, the fear of missing out on the next pump, and the caution, right? Not wanting to be the ones left holding bags, of a coin that maybe has stalled out, right? And then usually the truth is somewhere between the two. right? You've got a load of these kind of people who are haters. They'll hate on absolutely anything, and they'll basically just try to put everybody else down whilst trying to pump their own backs, right? You see this time and time again. And then you've got the really extreme end of the bullish side, right? Which are overly optimistic. They'll kind of shoot down anything that is kind of remotely against their points, and they're overly optimistic with some crazy price targets. And what I tend to find in this space is the truth is somewhere in the middle of all of that noise. So to reconcile it, as I take the extremes and I try to average them out where I can. So I felt many times in the past anyway, right? That in fact, that I do remember that last year when XRP shot past $3, there were a lot of people screaming that it's heading to $10, right? And others said sell before it crashes. Now, if you tune out a lot of the noise and you have to stick to just whatever your plan is, now that experience, it taught me that no matter what the analysts are predicting or whatever the naysayers are saying, there is nothing that's ever going to be guaranteed. Hence the disclaimer that I mentioned, right? Because at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff has taught me not to kind of dismiss anything outright just because it sounds unlikely. Sometimes the unlikely happens. I mean, a lot of people would have said that Zcash was dead. It was done. It was never going to go to $750. Well, Zcash has proved recently that those people were wrong. So I have to dig deeper into why someone like Mikybull is so bullish on XRP right now, beyond my own biases and my own conviction as to why I am bullish. Because obviously I have my own charts, I have my own patterns, I have my own data, whether that's on-chain or historical references within the price action. And that's built up kind of perspective for me that I am bullish on the chart. But I'd like to also see why other people are bullish and is there any kind of convergence of the idea. So beyond the chart patterns and the historical moves, what is the true story then? Right, a few things actually do stand out here. First, it's the idea of decoupling, right? Zcash's case showed that an altcoin with a kind of pump and dump narrative, we saw this with others, right? Zcash is one, and we're seeing it with others as well. Basically, money is cycling around, same liquidity, just moving from altcoin to altcoin, right? And they call it a strong narrative. It's not necessarily a narrative as such. It is basically just pumping and dumping coins. And they can, of course, under those kind of circumstances, break out of Bitcoin's shadow, i.e. decouple. Now, XRP does have a different narrative. And it might be strengthening here, right? Let's think about it differently, right? The regulatory clouds that have been parting a lot in the US. Institutions are testing the waters with Ripple's technology, and there are some real use cases in moving money around the world and across borders, right? Now, if enough people latch onto that story, all at once, demand can skyrocket regardless of what Bitcoin is doing or Zcash is doing. And the second thing is that there's the market cycle aspect, right? Capital rotation. This is the whole pump and dump stuff that we see with things like Zcash. Now, we might be entering a phase where large cap utility tokens like XRP actually get their turn to shine as traders rotate profits out of other altcoins and focus on the next one, or the next sector anyway. Remember, right, after a big privacy coin rally, attention often swings elsewhere, right? Pump and then dump and then move on. So maybe towards payment coins next. Who really knows, right? I guess there's a group of individuals out there that are orchestrating this. Anyway, Mikybull and others have hinted that if capital pours into these real-world utility cryptos, well, XRP could see explosive momentum in return. It has happened before, so why not again? Well, I would argue is that it worked with Zcash because it was a relatively low liquidity token, right? It's easy to put a small amount of money into something like that, go from a $600 million market cap to $10 billion market cap, right? That's quite an easy thing to do on low liquidity altcoins. XRP is not a low liquidity altcoin, so it is going to have a very different approach. I don't think the same pump and dump narratives or those groups are likely to focus on XRP because they're not going to be able to pump it in the same regard. So we have to look elsewhere, in my humble opinion. Still, I guess I didn't want to get caught in an echo chamber of bullishness here, so the argument that XRP's best days are behind us is not necessarily baseless either. Right? If a coin's price stops reacting to good news, well, that could be a potential flag, right? Maybe a lot of good news was already actually priced in. Maybe many holders have already kind of positioned themselves and there's no new influx of buyers, which is actually probably a real possibility. There is a buyer exhaustion, right? That could also lead to ill liquidity, a lack of liquidity. if you will. And the buying market, or the crypto market, I should say, being so sentiment driven at the moment, sometimes just moves on the new toys. So I had to ask myself here, what is different now? Why could XRP be the exception and not the rule, right? Maybe not even run up like, or maybe do a run like Zcash, I should say, right? And well, the answer actually that I kept coming back to was the timing and the groundwork of this. Because Zcash's rally, it caught everyone off guard, didn't it, right? Because it happened when people thought that Bitcoin's slump meant all crypto would slump too. But narratives can override, or marketing, as I'm going to articulate this, because that's how I see the Zcash run, by the way. I see it as a marketing effort and a group of individuals deliberately pumping the price to cash out of it, right? But narratives or marketing can override the macros in that shorter time frame, but it is short-term stuff. So for XRP, the groundwork, years of development, partnerships, legal clarity, they actually might converge with a moment in time when the market hungers for a news story that's not just about extracting money from the market. Now, it's a bit like a perfect lineup of stars that rarely actually happen, but when it does, you can get something pretty wild. So at this point in the journey, I felt cautiously optimistic. Right? I wasn't all in convinced that XRP is going to hit $10 next week, right? Or anything like that. That would be a little bit too optimistic for me right now, but I did see a viable path for it to climb there eventually, and maybe even beyond. Right? The risk-reward ratios actually made me pay a lot more attention again. Now, I started considering how I would play this. Do I accumulate more XRP now? Do I hold on to what I have and enjoy the ride if it comes? Well, one thing that I know for sure, whether XRP explodes or not, I'm going to be prepared for any big market moves. And that brings me to a little side quest that I have been on, something that runs parallel to me chasing price predictions. That's finding ways to earn crypto passively and to diversify my opportunities. So if you've been following this channel for a while, you know that I've talked about Unity nodes many times before. Now, this is a project that has been created by World Mobile and Minutes Network. This is like their baby, if you will. We'll call it Unity, baby Unity, right? And this project is kind of where you turn smartphones into a part of a decentralized telecoms network, and you get paid in crypto for it. Well, I did actually decide to take the plunge on Unity. I purchased a Unity Masternode NFT, which came with 200 licenses. In plain English, that means that I can activate up to 200 phones, and they act as little validating nodes that make these verification calls that help test the telecoms networks around the world. Now, each call that my device makes through the Unity app, I earn crypto rewards. And here's the cool part. I can choose the rewards in coins like Bitcoin, Ethereum, ADA, or yes, XRP, among many others. Right? Essentially, it's like mining or staking, but instead of solving math problems, my phones are basically just checking the cell networks, and I get paid for that service. Now, this has caught quite a lot of attention. It's been basically partnered up. Unity has partnered up with Polkadot to offer DOT as basically payment options. It's also most recently partnered up with Shiba Inu as well. So there's a lot going on there. Now, I started off with just 10 phones running to see how it all goes. It's very early stages, so I want to see how the rewards plan out before scaling this up, of course. If it goes well, you can bet that I'm going to be ramping up to more of those 200 licenses. I mean, just imagine 200 little devices are quietly stacking up crypto for you every single day. That is the dream, right? Now, of course, nothing comes free. The node itself was an investment, and the phones, they will use a bit of power and data as well. So it's like any venture. I'm treating it like an experiment. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not here to hype up Unity as the next big thing for everybody. It's just something that caught my attention, and it fits my theme of diversifying income with crypto. Now, as always, you should do your own research on it. I've got some links in the description down below to the Unity light paper and the rewards calculator so you can see all the nitty-gritty details for yourselves. And because I know that not everyone wants to have to deal with 200 devices, I've also purchased up a couple of extra nodes purely to lease the licenses out to you guys. Now, this way, members of our community who are curious to dip their toes in by leasing a license from me instead of buying a full node for themselves. Now, it's a pretty neat model here, right? Those who lease can run the app and earn crypto, and we will share the rewards according to the smart contract. Now, I'm going to have more information on all of this in our free Discord. The link is in the description below. And yes, that's a shameless plug. We do have a free educational Discord where we talk about projects like this and we share tips. So do feel free to join. Now, Unity is not the main focus of this video, of course, but it is part of the much bigger picture here. Finding ways to grow crypto holdings, whether through potential price surges like XRPs or through passive avenues like running nodes. In a way, exploring Unity was my response to the uncertainty. I can't control the XR, at least if XRP moons tomorrow, right? But I can control setting up systems that earn me XRP or other coins consistently over time. Kind of like hedging my bets here. So if price won't take me to the moon, maybe steady accumulation will build my rocket. Bringing it back to XRP versus Zcash, what is my personal takeaway from this whole adventure? Well, I would say this: stay curious, but skeptical. When I first heard the $8 to $10 XRP prediction, my gut said, yeah, okay, but when, right? But digging into this, I realized that there are some legitimate factors that could actually make all of this happen sooner rather than later. Will it actually play out? It could not, right? That's crypto for you. But I'm now mentally prepared for either scenario. So if XRP starts climbing towards that range, I'm not going to be sitting there in disbelief. I will have a game plan. I'll take some profits, ride it for longer. You bet that I'm going to decide when the time comes, right? And if the doesn't pan out as kind of advertised here, well, that's also fine too, because I haven't bet the farm on a single outcome. The key is at least having a rather balanced approach. Part of that balanced approach is actually making sure that I'm ready to act when the opportunities strike. One practical tip that I have here is have multiple accounts, exchange accounts set up and ready to go. This is something that I do proactively. I've signed up for, verified with, and tested a whole bunch of crypto exchanges as plan A, B, C, and so on, right? You never know when one exchange might go down or freeze withdrawals. So I've got accounts on everything from Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, KuCoin, Mexi, Bluefin, BitGet, LBank, you name it, I'm probably there, right? And all the exchanges that I personally use are listed on my own website, and there's a link in the description below for that. And on the website, those links for those exchanges, those are affiliate links, by the way, which means if you do use them, sign up and trade through those links, it actually supports the channel here at no extra cost to yourself. And you know what? I really do appreciate that. It really does help keep this channel going and gets us to create all these videos just for you guys. But you know what? More importantly, it's just a part of my strategy to always have those options open. So if XRP or any other coin suddenly moons or crashes, then I want to be able to react to that, right? Whether that's taking profits or buying a dip, without being locked out because one platform is just overloaded, or heaven forbid, they do something crazy like FTX, commingle funds, and basically everybody who has money on the exchange basically gets rugged, right? Because FTX, they did that. They rugged everybody. Everybody lost, and they got a fraction back of what they actually had on that exchange through the bankruptcy procedures. So yeah, don't do that, right? This strategy, though, what I have set up here, it has saved my bacon in the past many times over, and I can't recommend it enough. Have a plan B, exchange at the ready. Now, speaking of exchanges, I've got a special hookup just for you guys. I've partnered with Kraken, one of the most reputable exchanges that are out there, to give our community just a little bonus here. So if you sign up for Kraken through my link that's in the description below and trade $100 worth of any crypto, excluding stablecoins, within 30 days of opening your account, Kraken will reward you with $25 in XRP. Yeah, free XRP added to your account just for doing a little bit of trading that you might have done anyway. That includes spot buys, by the way. So you could just go to Kraken through that link in the description, create an account, and buy $100 of XRP, and Kraken will send you an extra $25 in XRP. Now, this is a limited time offer, so if you are thinking about beefing up your exchange arsenal before the bull market really does kick into high gear, then now is a great time to test out Kraken. Now, you get another platform under your belt and a nice chunk of XRP to boot. All the details and the terms are linked in the description down below, and it's really important that you do read those terms and conditions because not every jurisdiction is eligible, but it will list all of the details that you need to participate. Now, I'm really excited about this particular offer because it's literally a way to accumulate more XRP with rather minimal effort, and it aligns perfectly with the idea of being prepared for the next wave. So, hey, it supports the channel here too. So we are going to call this a win-win-win situation. You get, a new exchange to add to your arsenal, plus some XRP. It supports the channel here at no extra cost to yourselves. And Kraken, they get a new user too. So as we come to the finish line of this story today, let's zoom out just a bit. Right, the crypto world is unpredictable. That is a given, right? 1 month a privacy coin like ZEC or Zcash for long short, I guess, is actually stealing a spotlight, right? And the next month it could be an OG like XRP making a comeback. The big lesson for me was to stay adaptive. I started this journey a bit doubtful, and I'm ending it with eyes wider open. Right? Maybe XRP will follow Zcash's path and rip a massive rally. It has the setup and the catalyst to do so, in my opinion. Or maybe it won't. Or maybe something else will take the throne altogether, right? Either way, I'm going to be positioning myself to benefit here by holding quality projects like XRP, by exploring new opportunities like Unity nodes, and by ensuring that I have all the tools, the exchanges, the accounts, the knowledge ready for when the lightning strikes. To everybody watching this, I hope this little investigative journey has inspired you to do your own digging here. Don't just take any prediction at face value. Look under the hood, consider the why behind it, and see if it makes sense to you. You might actually end up agreeing with the prediction, or you might not. But either way, you're going to be making more of an informed decision. For me, learning about Zcash's rally and the possibility of XRP following suit was a bit of a wake-up call, because in crypto, anything truly can happen, and it can happen fast. Today's underdog could be tomorrow's superstar, and sometimes coins that we think are old news have a way of coming back with a vengeance. In conclusion, I'm glad that I paid attention to that curiosity spark instead of just dismissing it. Now, I'm walking away from this with research, at least this research, I should say, with a renewed appreciation for XRP's potential and a solid plan to be ready for whatever comes next, whether that is a 3x, a 5x, or just steady growth overall. I'm here for it, and if it does pull something like a Zcash and goes 18x, well, you're probably going to catch me smiling like a kid on Christmas morning, but not too surprised. So, thank you for joining me on this journey. If you found this enlightening or just maybe entertaining, then you know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe button and stick around for what happens next. Because the crypto saga continues, and trust me here, you don't want to miss what the next chapter has in store. See you in the next one.